Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another conscious conversation. Today, I'm wearing my Match Me hat. We're going to be talking about relationships. I'm talking to Erin Polaschek, who is a wellness expert, holistic mentor, body specialist. She works with NLP and human design. We're going to be talking about why you keep choosing the wrong people, human design insight into aligned relationships. Yay. Welcome, Erin. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Lovely. Thank you for the introduction. Good work on the name.
I know I had to practice that. So, we are
Yeah.
going to be talking about relationships. And the first question I've got that I really want to put on the floor is how can knowing your human design be beneficial or helpful in the dating stage?
Okay, so human design is a little bit of background. It's basically an energetic typing system for bodies. And that's to just look at design typing and not get into mental mechanics. And so you have four different auric types. That's how we talk about it. And what that means is those four different types, they work really differently. So, for example, my friend here is, do you mind if I mention it?
Please do.
Is a generator. And so this is someone who's here to do work, who gets a lot of satisfaction out of doing the work that they love across a day. I'm a projector. I can get a little bit of satisfaction out of doing a hard day's work, but really it's not where the juice is at. And over a week, I can feel very exhausted from doing that. It's not satisfying to me anymore. It's almost deflating and it robs me a little bit of energy. But the truth is, you're an energy type and I'm not. So even to say that it robs me of energy is an odd phrase. So in order for me to get success in life, I need to work with people. And I'm designed to work with people. And it's a long game getting success. It's a long game building a successful relationship. It's a long game growing a child well. It's a long game helping someone change, helping someone get enlightened, working with posture as I have for so many years, working with injuries, working with gut health, working with chronic disease. These are long games. Now, a projector is built to do that. But you bring a generator and a projector together, and you've got someone who goes, oh, let's go out and do the lawns. That will be a really great way to spend our energy today. And the projector goes, yeah, cool. I'll come along and do that because you're going to enjoy it. Right? So the projector's not doing the lawns because it's enjoyable for them. They're doing the lawns because that's how they get to bond and do time with their partner. But actually, ultimately, at the end of the day, every time they do a job like that, it becomes a little bit more depleting. Whereas for the generator, it's like, I spent my energy, I feel great, now I can sleep well tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to wake up, recharge, ready to go again, because I really wanted to do those lawns and I feel very satisfied spending my energy. So if you've got four different aura types and they're all trying to get along together, that in and of itself, you're already playing, as soon as you're two different energy types, you're playing a different game, and we all approach the world as we are, not as it is. So if I go out there and I go, well, everybody should be recognizing me because that's what I'm designed to do. And the generator's going, everybody should be working hard and achieving because that's what we're designed to do. And the manifester is going, we've got to go have impact, 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 right? That's like, I've got to make a mark wherever I go. And their whole aura does that wherever they go. And then the reflector's going, well, I'm just here to gather some wisdom. So that's going to take me a while. 30 days, what, 29 days, in fact, right? A full lunar cycle. So you are dealing with four main types of beings that as soon as you put two different types together, they're approaching each other as if the other should be like them. And that becomes very, very disheartening for both in the end, you know. So I think it's really important to understand the type you're dealing with, especially if they're not the same type as you, because they work completely differently. But then we get more into the nitty gritty and the mechanics. I'm emotional. Some people are not emotionally designed. Some people are splenically designed. They're very fast. Some people are much slower because they're emotional wave or they're a reflector and it takes them 29 days to get clarity. Like, and then you've got pure sacral beings. It's yes or no. It's black and white. It's, well, the color of truth is gray to me, you know? So, and am I wrong or are you wrong? Well, no one's wrong. It's all subjective. So it's a way for us to understand the unique subjective viewpoint that our partner brings and contributes to the world.
Yeah, like one of the phrases I love to use is about human design when I discovered it probably about 8 years ago, is it helps us to understand each other better, judge each other less, and love each other more. And I feel like dating, is tricky at the best of times, but I feel like if people understand, or I like to say understand who they are, and they understand the human design type of their potential partner who they're dating or already in a relationship with, it can make things easier because you just kind of like judge less. Do you find that people, once they know that human design part of their partner, they kind of the dynamics of the relationship shifts for the better?
Massively. And like, I have one friend, she actually started teaching herself human design because she's a manifesting generator and her partner is a splenic projector. She's emotionally designed. He's splenic, he's very fast. It's a quick nudge or it's not at all, you know? And there's, I mean, you could probably not find two people more different. Not only is she a manifesting generator, this is the happy puppy dog with all the energy in the world. They're not just the consistent hum of the generator, and I don't mean to diminish the generator in that statement, but they are very much ready for the next thing. They're like they're right on the edge going, life is so exciting, let's go. And he's a splenic projector. He doesn't have all four motors like she does. So she's an energy full on being. He's like, well, we could do that, but doesn't really matter. It's a very, very different approach. So yeah, she started learning it and it has it saved their relationship. She will tell you that it totally saved their relationship. I have other people come into, workshops and things like that, and they're shocked by what you can read off a chart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're like, oh, your husband actually holds space for you in this way and is really good at doing X, Y, and Z. And they're like, how do you know that? He's not even here. You've never met him, and you don't know me either. So how can you see how someone is arguing? It's like, well, there's disruption here. There's an issue here in the chart where you see it this way and he sees it that way. And guess what? You are never going to see eye to eye on that. You are just going to have to accept that you bring a different viewpoint and he brings a different viewpoint. And that's it.
Well, I'd love to give a little scenario to you. Well, you kind of mentioned two types there, so we'll use those. So, what advice do you have for someone, let's say, that is a manifesting generator? And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I remember from when I studied human design is about 80% of the population is either a manifesting generator or a generator. So it's very common to be one of those types. So it's very common. So let's say you have a manifesting generator who's dating a projector, from memory, about 17% of the population. So not the rarest, but actually quite rare. Yeah, is there, obviously every chart is different and there's so many intricacies, but generally speaking, what guidance would you give to that couple? Just, two things to be aware of or something like that.
So 70% is your generator group, first of all. So you're pretty close. And your projectors are now about 22%. And we're seeing a rising sort of, the numbers shift around a bit, but it's because we're moving into more of a projector-led time
Yes.
that's shifting. Oh, such a good question. The biggest thing, projectors are energy addicts. I mean, projectors and manifestors, that's roughly, and the reflectors, which is a very small portion, like less than 2% of the population, sort of around 1. That's your reflectors, and then manifestors 8%, projectors around 22%. So there's 30%. All of these beings have something in common, and that is we don't have that consistent generator hum. It's like a motorbike engine that just goes until it's out of gas. It sleeps, it gets back up. It's like it went to the petrol station, it's good to go again. And so projectors, manifestors, and reflectors, we're all here for that energy. We're all here for that sacral source. That's why there's so much of it. And so sometimes people feel like they're not as important because they're just a generator. There's no such thing as just a generator. It's source energy pumping through your sacral, and people can be a little jealous of it sometimes because it can keep going. So it's important to understand if you're a projector that you're an energy addict. Like that's the first step in getting to evolve
What do you
yourself.
mean by that? Because when I think of projectors, I usually say rest is best, less is more,
Beautiful.
that kind of stuff. What do you mean by energy addict?
Excellent question. So projectors are looking to plug in. Everybody should have access to source energy, but we do it in different ways. And so when you look at a chart, you see some bits are colored and some bits are white, no matter whose chart you're looking at, unless you're looking at a reflectors chart, in which case everything is white. So wherever there are white areas, people are looking to plug in those white areas, right? A projector is here to become the expert on how to manage source energy efficiently for your satisfaction, for you to be free as a generator. So a projector is literally going around going, I want to plug into sacral. And everybody needs access to that sacral energy. How else are you going to make money? Right? If I don't plug in, I don't move. I'm just like, don't need to do anything. So I deliberately set myself up to plug in. But now in relationship, that becomes a problem because when do I plug out? When do I become me again? And in all the white areas in anyone's chart, whether it's a projector, a generator, whatever, those white areas are where you're going to condition into the other. And they become your areas of play or not self. Areas where you start running your own self incorrectly because you've aligned yourself so much into someone else's stuff. And that's the thing with relationships. We really go to get lost in them first. And then the question is, if you're conscious enough, can you find your way back to yourself with what you've learned from the other without taking it on as your own incorrectly? So a projector is a non-energy type that plugs into sacral energy and then is like amplifying it. Sometimes, what does an amplifier do? Well, it can distort, right? So if we keep plugging in all the time, it's like we look like the Easter Bunny on crack. Like people are like, oh, but you look like you have energy. I'm like, you see me around generators. Of course I
So
look
what,
like
you
that.
get home and crash?
Oh man. Actually, you get to a point where you're out where you feel like you've taken too many drugs or drunk too much coffee, right? Like, that feeling when you've had like 3 cups of coffee and you're like, it's like that in your system. And then not only do you get home and crash, but a projector does not necessarily recover from exhaustion by going to bed for a day. It might take them 3, it might take them 5. And so the biggest mistake a manifesting generator in particular makes, perhaps any energy type, manifestors as well, is thinks that the projector is going to be their play buddy. Oh, you're going to come out and do all this stuff with me because you're so impressively energetic when you're around me.
Okay, so to summarize what I'm hearing is the manifesting generator, the advice for them is realize that your projector partner or the person you're dating is not going to be able to keep up with you, so to speak. So don't expect them to live life at the pace you do, something like that.
100%. And a lot of people seem to be looking to get a partner that fits into their life. That's a narrative that I kind of hear. Is that something you hear a lot
It's
of too?
so interesting because with my Match Me, when people apply, not a lot. This happens occasionally and not all the time, but some people actually want, the match and the description of themselves. They actually want a version of themselves. Like they're like, I want someone just like me. Whereas, not everyone puts that, but it does come up.
Yeah, and I've heard that a lot. People sort of going, would you want to do this? Would you want to do that? Would you? Kind of seeing if I'm going to slot into their situation. Or I hear some of my clients, because I work with some of my clients on marriage and things like that. And it's like, well, she's in bed all day. I'm like, she's exhausted. She's absolutely exhausted and she's not your toy, you know. So, and they don't mean bad. Like they just don't understand. And similarly, a projector that doesn't know what they are will kill themselves. And literally projectors can get the sickest the quickest. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they will kill themselves trying to keep up. And they will even wonder what's wrong with them. They'll be using all the vitamin C's and, mushroom, reishi, all this stuff. I mean, I have a drawer full of it, right? I've experimented with it all. So The biggest thing to remember, I think, no matter who you are in dating, is no one is made for you. And to me, the real experience is getting to meet someone and actually considering what it means to meet someone. Because how we do that relates to how we meet ourselves. And to me, all of this is an individual experience. And human design is really an individual's game. So when you go into relationship in human design, you're really learning how to live your design whilst being impacted by what it is to be in relationship and actually holding on to that which is truly you in mechanism so that you can make good decisions for yourself without shame, guilt, resentment, all these things that build up in relationships. It's like, well, if I'm an emotional projector and my pure sacral partner comes in and goes, hey, do you want to go to this right now? And I say yes, even though I had my whole day planned out, what am I doing? The answer is, I'd love to go. Ask me again tomorrow. Let's plan it. I'm emotional. There's no truth in the now. But for a pure sacral, it's always black and white. They want to do it or they don't. It's that simple. So I also am like, go do. Oh, if you want to go do that, cool, awesome. Let me know when we can go, and I'll let you know if I want to come. So it's how do I make quality decisions for myself if I'm allowing someone else to influence me in the way that they are? A splenic person is so fast. At the same time, there might be a reason I want to let the spleen guide me, for example. And this is not a relationship situation per se, but I was actually presenting with a friend of mine who's a splenic projector, and someone wanted to jump onto our chat. And they were a friend of ours. And I was like, oh, yeah, cool, why not? But she hesitated. Like her spleen went, ooh, like that. And if you watch that video, it's really interesting to see what happens. And then afterwards, she said, yeah, I didn't think that. Now, if I'd been smart, I would have caught her spleen.
Her
And I
body
would have gone,
language.
no, not today. So also learning the genius of what's in front of you physically and the way it interprets the world can really bring you something that you may not catch in that moment because there's no truth in the now for me, ever.
So I just want to jump into the early dating stage, right? So when people are
Yep.
in the dating stage, let's say they're going to have, maybe coffee and a beach walk with somebody. It's the first time they're meeting them. I think people often will try to it's a fine balance. It's almost like a dance, I think, of being your actual true self, right? Versus trying to like pick up on the cues, and also if you're with Match Me, you will have read a little bit about this person you're meeting, so you kind of know what they want or what they're looking for. It's a fine balance as a human to be true to who you are versus trying to fit into what they want. So how does somebody navigate that in terms of their own, you think knowing your own human design will, I guess, set you in a good path because you kind of know your natural tendencies and maybe your natural pitfalls as well?
Knowing your own design, which is why I do believe that people should get an understanding of their own design. Like when I mentor people, I may not necessarily do it having done a full reading for them. I don't actually think that that's necessary, particularly for generators. I actually think we can just kind of jump in, do the mentoring, and I really use human design there as I use neuro-linguistic programming, law of attraction principles, and anything else I'm drawing on at the time. Actually, I even use postural diagnostics and chakra system and stuff like that as well, even in mentoring. Um, when they're really looking at dating, they're looking at what's going on for them. And so if we start, what's the word I want to say? If we start sort of coaching around what are you attracting, what situations are you getting into, what went wrong in the last one, how do you feel on a date? Often what we see come up is all those shadows that are in their chart that they can learn about beforehand are actually being really amplified the second they're around someone. And of course, it varies depending on the person that they're connecting with, because we all go to school with each other, so to speak. And so every time you make a connection with someone, they show you something about yourself. And I don't think that you can have a good relationship out there in the world unless you really learn how to have a good relationship with yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
that means dropping any ideas about what you think is a good person or a bad person or a, like, you really have to let that stuff go. And think about, if you let that stuff go, how amazing it is to connect with someone who's completely different to you, who's had a completely different life to you. And what an incredible opportunity it is to experience something that otherwise you would never have met. But we often miss things in the world because we're judgmental. And when we're judgmental out there, oh boy, are we hard on ourselves. And so, yeah, human design can show us our trauma components. It can show us our shadows. Sometimes we're even circuited to, have qualities that are maybe not so wonderful, but it's circuitry. You are actually designed that way. So it's about bringing conscious awareness to it and going, do I really want to let that run the show? You know?
So for people who feel like they do keep choosing the wrong person, like maybe there's a pattern there, what guidance do you have for them? Like how can they stop that pattern or realize why they're doing it?
There's so many ways to answer your questions, by the way. Like, human design is just such a big area. And again, a lot of these white bits in the chart can often give us clues.
Mm-hmm.
Are we trying to be someone we're not? Which is exactly where we've just come from in your last question. But one of the things I want to hit on are two centers in particular, that when they're undefined, they can really cause some havoc. But I would say that's true of any center. Like, a lot of people who are undefined emotionally will really struggle with the emotional partner that they pick. And why did they pick an emotional partner? Well, because they didn't have emotionality. So they're immediately attracted to passion, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, which is really what the emotional center is about. But 70% of people have an undefined heart, or willpower is another way of looking at it, or ego is another way it's called in human design. And that means we've got nothing to prove and we're not here to basically make promises. And we live in a world that's all about proving yourself everywhere you look. It's a not self world, right? It's actually designed in a way to drag you from yourself. Most things are asking you to be competitive, asking you to prove, asking you to make promises. I mean, that's what relationship often is, framed as. It's like, you broke a promise to me. Well, 70% of people shouldn't be making promises and they shouldn't be proving themselves. They should relax. And so one of the reasons that people are getting into relationships that don't work is because they have not looked at what's going on with them. The other problem with that willpower center is when it's undefined, generally not very good boundaries. And so you're still discovering what you want and desire in life. And so you're still discovering where your boundary lines are. And so often at the end of a relationship, we look back and we go, man, I was a mug, And it's like, no, you were learning about your boundaries. And a lot of people look at relationship and go, well, that was unsuccessful. I'm like, was it? Did you learn anything about yourself? Did you grow your compassion for the other? Because there's a lot of talk in the modern world that we're in, and for good reason, about narcissism and different
Mm-hmm.
attachment styles. And I love to talk about these things, but not as a way of judgment, as a tool. And I've dated some very narcissistic people in my time. And honestly, they taught me what love is. They really taught me what love is. Because if I could love them anyway and find my boundaries, whew, that's something else. That's such an invitation. The other center that's really interesting. So emotionality is a fun one.
Yeah, I just want to jump in. Will, I'm so
Yeah,
happy you mentioned the Will Center. I feel
yeah.
like it's one, even if you just spent 10 minutes with someone looking at their Will Center, it can be like these aha moments for them going, oh my gosh, no wonder I always put my needs last. Or in the world I live in with entrepreneurial women, it's always like, oh, undefined Will Center, you probably undercharge for your services every time.
I
So
do.
it's such a fascinating thing. I think also I love what you just said about the relationships that you've had in the past. And my philosophy is similar, that we are here on this earth to learn and grow. And every relationship is so valuable if you can look at
Sorry,
the
I've got
learning.
sorry, I've got someone at my door and I'm just like, no, sorry, not right now. Sorry,
you
keep going.
no, it's all good. Yeah, so I feel like we are here to learn and grow, but sometimes if we don't look at that and we don't reflect, I guess people will repeat and kind of date the same type of maybe the wrong person. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? If they just don't know about human design, maybe they don't won't even think about these things.
I think anyone who starts a journey inwards. So, one of the things that someone commented recently on my page and said, "If only they'd taught us that in school." And I'm like, first of all, school was not designed to teach you anything that was particularly useful for you becoming whole. That's not what it was designed for. But as beings, we come into the world to kind of go out into the world and become not self. And then there's the second invitation at some point in life for all of us. And I started mine at like 20, kind of by accident, where we go, hang on, what is this? What am I sitting in here? What is this world? Right? Now, most people are going to go inwards. And I don't think human design is the only tool, which is why it's not the only tool in my toolbox. And I don't use it for some people because they don't like it. But if you are not self-reflective as to why your relationships have a pattern, if you are not self-reflective in just what you're asking for, oh, well, I want someone who's, and it's like, have you considered what you're really asking for? I used to go along and think that it's a terrible thing to say. A daddy with a little daughter, would be more compassionate to me, or that an entrepreneur would be more accepting of my kind of radical out there creativeness. And what I realized was I was looking at three-dimensional things and I was asking for rubbish, but there was actually a frequency behind that I was looking for. And in asking for that, I needed to become the mirror of it. And so when you are out there in the world and you're going, women are like this, men are like that, ugh, and you've got all that stuff going on, it's like what you're doing in that is you're outsourcing your responsibility. And so I think we all have to go on the internal journey in order for us to work out why relationships are reflecting back to us what they are reflecting.
So interesting. One of the things, or three of the most common things that people put on my forums about what they're looking for, emotional intelligence comes up a lot, which I love. Both men and women put that down. Like, what are you looking for in your ideal match? EQ,
Right.
emotional intelligence. And I'm like, yes, that's obviously they're looking for someone that has done some personal reflection, personal discovery, which is so great. So many people put kind, something like that, like caring or kind or something like that, which I think is also really good. And fun. I mean, I think these days, life is really stressful and heavy sometimes. And even though it's for relationship ready singles, so I don't mean they're looking for fun like one night stand, but they want someone who is fun, who loves life. And I think those are three great things personally.
I think they are. I think the first one has more depth to it
Yeah.
because it's talking about emotionality, which in human design is depth. The one that's fun is interesting because I would refer to Mark Gunger's sort of setup of the different types of people there. I'm more perfectionistic, so I'm less interested in fun. I'm more interested in people. I'm more interested in knowing the other. That's projector. But I like precision. To me, that's fun. Going out to
Mm.
a party is like, it's exhausting. I'm a projector. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
designed
yeah.
for one-on-one. You
What
take
is
me to a
fun
party,
exactly? Yeah.
right? So what is fun? I think that's something I would be like, well, what is fun to you would be my first question. And then there was another one that you said as well, fun and
Kind or caring.
kind and caring. Do you know what? Even the darkest person I've ever met is kind and caring in their way. And so, again, to me, that's sort of like, what does that even mean? What you're actually asking for is someone who's functional. You're asking for someone who's actually done enough self-development that they don't have all these defense mechanisms up, holding you back or, pushing you away or clinging on to you or whatever their thing is. So a person who is not kind is really just someone who's in defense mode. And that's just someone who's traumatized.
Or self-orientated and doesn't think of others. I think that was
Well,
that.
self-orientated, I mean, you could say that all generators are self-orientated, but I wouldn't say that. But by the nature of the aura, they essentially are. Um, and it's their design.
And
And you
similarly, I'm going to throw this in. Some people care way too much about what other people think and not enough about what they actually think. So
100%,
It's
but
all
that's actually
subjective.
still self-orientated. That's a safety mechanism,
Mm-hmm.
right? I
Yeah.
worry about what you think for my safety. That's
Mm-hmm.
the truth. So we're all selfish and we're meant to be. And I think that's something that's forgotten in relationship. It's like you are entitled to want what you want, and I am entitled to not want it. But I can still love you, and I can still turn up when I feel like it, and you can still turn up when you feel like it, and we can make individual decisions to come together. And if we stop doing that, relationship over, like that's the reality.
So much food for thought. Okay, my wrap up question for you about human design is, would you date someone without knowing their human design?
Oh God, no. For the main reason, which is why we came here today, is, and you said it so beautifully earlier, you said about understanding the other. I mean, I'm a projector. I can see a person without seeing their design. But to me, it's a toolkit to immediately know how to ask them to something, how the mechanism between us has to work. You know, I want to honor the other. I mean, that's very much a lot of people, but projectors are very much designed for that. They're about the other. So I use human design in order to make sure that I'm doing my best to get the physical truth out of that person. Their body is speaking to me and I can listen, you know. And conversely, as a projector, which is the newest type, and I mean, it's still a big chunk of the population. It's 22%, right? So 1 in 5 people is a projector. Generators are very attracted to them. So generator projector relationships, because projectors are very attracted to generators, that's very normal and they're totally different. A generator is not automatically going to be turned out to recognize me, to give me what I need. So I want them to know my design. I want them to understand it. And if they don't want to know, to me, sorry, buddy, not enough recognition to understand that you don't get it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, Erin, I'd love to ask you, how can people find you, follow you online, get in touch if they want to find out about their own personal human design or their partners?
Awesome. So I am erinpolaschek.com is my website. It really needs an update, but it's erinpolaschek.com. You can send me a message there. You can also find me on Instagram at Erin Zen Warrior,
Mm.
as in like with a sword. And also Erin Polaschek on Facebook. You're more than welcome to approach me there as well.
Amazing. I'll put the links and the proper spelling somewhere in the description. And also, Erin is one of my mentors that I recommend. So you guys can check that out on matchme.co.nz /mentors for people that can help you to be relationship ready. Because I feel like when you meet someone and you want things to go well, why wouldn't you want to understand, or as I like to say, understand yourself and them even more? Thank you, everyone, for joining us today for this conscious conversation. We've been talking about why you keep choosing the wrong people and human design insight into aligned relationships. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much, Natalie.
And thank you, everyone, for watching. Go and share this with a friend if you think it can help. See ya.